expecting, Billy Loomis? Alright, so the movie's written and directed by the fucking infamous horror director of all time behind the Nightmare on Elm Street series, the one and only Wes Craven. The movie has a pretty lengthy cast. We got Neve Campbell, which plays Sidney Prescott. She's the daughter of Laureen Prescott. Courtney Cox plays the fucking snooty, bitchy fucking news reporter. She plays Gale Weathers. Okay, so you got Matthew Lillard, which plays Stu. And then you got old Skeet Ulrich, which plays Stu's friend, Billy Loomis. David Arquette is Deputy Dewey. Drew Barrymore, which plays Casey Becker. Rose McGowan, which plays Tatum Riley. And you got Jamie Kennedy, he plays Randy. Henry Winkler, the fucking Fonz, as Principal Arthur Hembry. Wes Craven himself as the janitor Fred. Okay, so the movie starts and we got Drew Barrymore and she's just at home alone, popping popcorn. She's about to watch a video. All of a sudden the phone rings. There's a rough voice on the other end asking her questions. Every time she hangs up the phone, he calls right back. After a short time of them talking on the phone and her hanging up on him, he pretty much says that he's outside.
I'm calling the police.
They'd never make it in time.
She turns on the light as being instructed, basically, and only to reveal that her boyfriend's literally tied up to a chair. She agrees to this fucking game. Caller proceeds to ask her, name the killer of Friday the 13th. And then she shouts, it's Jason! It was Jason, you know. Wrong answer. She turns the lights on. Her boyfriend's guts are just pouring out of his body. Goes into the kitchen, grabs this large butcher knife, and then runs outside. In the distance, you can see a car pulling up. It's their fucking parents. She's saved. The killer's right there in the window with his back to her. And then he turns around and punches through the glass. And, like, there's a struggle. He tries to grab her. The killer runs up behind her and literally grabs her by the mouth, stabs her in the chest. She falls on the ground. The killer gets on top of her. He's about to stab her again. And, you know, with fucking one of the final blows, she is able to pull the mask off, but we're not shown who she sees. Parents enter the house and find the back door smashed and the popcorn on fire, so they know immediately that something's up. When they attempt to call the police, they can hear her on the other line or on the other end, and she sounds really weak, almost like she's being drugged. Mother runs outside and finds her hanging from a tree, gutted as fuck. Police are at the school asking questions and trying to find answers or any kind of leads that they can. Later on, Sydney is basically hanging out with like her friends and they're all just kind of speculating over who the killer could be. Later that evening, Sydney's just kind of chilling at home after school, you know, on the couch channel surfing like we used to do, and she just can't escape fucking news reports on every channel pretty much about the murders and everything going on. And then she ultimately stops on Top Story, which is Gale Weathers' fucking news show, you know, showing the footage shot at the school that day. This is basically where we learn a little bit more about what really happened to her mother. She falls asleep, she takes a little nap, and then she's awoken by the phone ringing. And it's Tatum, where they're about to hang out, just to get their minds off all this shit. Phone rings again. Creepy voice, that dude, the mysterious mystery guy, he's back. She initially thinks that it's Randy, but it's just not him at all. She runs inside, locking the fucking front door up, and then all of a sudden, from behind her, one of the closet doors open. And then you got your boy Ghostface flying out that bitch with a fucking blade coming right at her. She runs up the stairs into her room. The phones aren't working, so she literally AOLs the fucking police on her fucking old Macintosh. Suddenly her boyfriend comes through the window again. Ironically, just as the killer seems to not be at the fucking door anymore. She goes to hug him for comfort when a cell phone, one of those 90s ass cell phones, falls out of his pocket and hits the ground, leading her to believe that Billy is in fact the killer. The cops are here. Billy has now been arrested as a suspect. We're at Tatum's place now and they're like getting ready to go to bed. Tatum's mom comes in and she says that Sydney has a phone call. It's the fucking creepy voiced weirdo fuck, and he's pretty much telling her that, you know, you put the wrong guy in jail, you stupid bitch. Alright, so it's the next morning, the news is on. Basically a news report about Cotton Weary. And Cotton Weary, to give you a little background on him, the guy that supposedly killed Sydney's mother, Maureen Prescott. Dewey turns the TV off and he informs Sydney that Billy's cell phone records came up clean and it wasn't him that called her that night. Later in the school halls, someone runs through with the Ghostface costume and scares the shit out of Sydney. He threatens to expel these motherfuckers and ultimately just sends them on their fucking merry way. Knock at the door suddenly and nobody's there whenever he opens it up. Happens again and then he runs outside, runs out there to try to catch this fucking prankster. It's just Fred, the janitor. He re-enters his office. The Ghostface killer is right behind the door, and Principal Hembry is the next contestant on The Knife is Right. The kids decide to throw a huge party at Stewart's house tonight. Even Gail Weathers shows up. She takes this opportunity to plant a small remote camera in the living room to get anything she can. Tatum goes to get some beers and shit out of the fridge. Door seems to shut behind her while she's in the fridge. She clicks a button for the garage door to open and she starts to walk. You know, she's gonna go out through the garage door and then it stops halfway. She turns around only to see that the fucking Ghostface killer motherfucker standing there by the fucking button. Cuts her arm. So then she tries to go out this like doggy door or something that's in the garage door. She's stuck in the fucking door. Killer presses the button again, literally crushing her ass with the fucking garage door. Billy shows up at the party and Sydney tells him she wants to talk, so she takes him upstairs. Sydney ends up getting it on with Billy. There's always somebody getting it on. Gail goes back to the van to check on the video feed, and that's when she realizes that there's a 30-second delay on the video. Now the kids start to gather up. They're deciding on which horror movie they want to watch. Halloween wins, and then they start the tape. The phone rings right in the middle of Halloween. Basically, he's informed that Principal Hembry was murdered, and he was hung in the football field for all to see. Randy tells everybody what the fuck happened, and then they're all like super excited to see a dead body, I guess. And then they tear ass out of the house. Sydney and Billy are like getting dressed again. Out of nowhere, Ghostface, the killer, comes up behind Billy, and for some reason she takes a really long time to tell him. It's like at the last minute, there's somebody behind you. It makes it look like he gets the shit stabbed out of him. Trying to escape out the window, the killer charges her and she falls out, landing on a boat parked in the driveway. Sydney looks up to find Tatum's body still stuck in the open garage door. You cut back to Randy laying on the couch watching the rest of Halloween. It's like towards the end, and he's screaming at the TV, "Behind you, Jamie! Look behind you!" His name's actually Jamie Kennedy in real life. He's screaming at Jamie Lee Curtis on the movie. Really fucking awesome little moment there. And before you know it, Ghostface starts to walk up behind him. He's about to stab him and he hears a noise or something and he runs out the front door. Sydney and the cameraman are literally watching. The cameraman gets out of the van and out of nowhere a knife just comes along and just fucking slashes his throat wide open. Sydney basically barely escapes through like this small little hole in the rear of the van. Sydney goes back to the house and Officer Dewey has been stabbed. She gets to the door and grabs Dewey's gun. Randy and fucking Stu both fucking come at her. They're blaming each other, saying, "He's the killer, you know, he's the fucking killer, I'm not the killer." Goes inside the fucking house and locks the door. Then we cut to Billy fucking falling down the stairs like all bloody and shit. After, I guess, recovering, he asks her for the gun and she gives him the gun. He unlocks the door and opens it up and he lets Randy in. He's claiming that Stu is fucking gone insane. Like, he has lost his shit. And then Billy's demeanor just entirely changes.
We all go a little mad sometimes.
Randy now knows it was Billy, and then just goes ahead and gets shot in the shoulder. He brings up a voice changer, and that's when we find out that it's been them both the entire time. They explain their plans on framing her father and using that to get away scot-free. To further that plan, they literally stab the shit out of each other just for authenticity. Bill and Stu plant the voice changer on Sydney's father and the cell phone, and they're totally about to frame this dude for everything. When all of a sudden Gail Weathers pops in the room and she's wielding that cold blue steel. Gail doesn't realize is that the gun is actually on safety and she's a dumbass. So she goes to shoot at Billy, pretty much shoot him right in his fucking face, and the gun's not working. So Billy reaches up and like... Billy leans over with the gun and he's about to just fucking end Gail's career altogether right then and there, when all of a sudden Stu realizes that Sydney and her father are both gone, and then the phone rings. Now Sydney has a voice changer and she tells them that she called the fucking police. So Billy's pissed the fuck off now at this point, and he's like searching the house frantically, and then he goes into the closet, and then keeping in mind Halloween is still playing on the TV, Sydney comes out of the fucking closet dressed up like the killer, like the ghost face killer, and stabs his fucking ass in the chest 2 times, and he falls to the ground. Stu literally comes out of nowhere and tackles Sydney like over a fucking couch, and he's like on top of her. She literally like cracks him over the head with a vase, and then she throws a fucking TV on this motherfucker's head, killing the shit out of him. Sydney leans down and she's examining the ghost face mask in relief. Randy comes out of nowhere and then immediately just gets fucking punched, knocked out. It's Billy. He jumps on top of Sydney and he's about to kill her like he did her mother, he says. And then all of a sudden Gale Weathers comes in with the fucking cold steel and actually shoots his ass in the chest, and he fucking dies on the ground. They all regroup and they walk up to Billy, and Randy's like,
"This is the moment when the supposedly dead killer comes back to life for one last scare."
Billy's fucking dead. Stu's dead. Fuck them all. But yeah, you guys, that's it. Wes Craven's Scream. It's a fucking awesome movie. It added a new life into the horror franchise, I feel like, because it had been dead for a long time. All the movies and all the franchises just kind of got stale. Like, Freddy Krueger just started to literally suck after part 3. It was well received because there hadn't been a good horror film in a really long time, because most horror films were shit until then. It's definitely a good little fucking 90s flick. If you want to check out something like I Know What You Did Last Summer or something along the lines of that, go check it out, you guys. I'll see you guys next year.